Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, hosting for the final time this week. Marquise Williams will be in for me tomorrow night to host the show, as I will be off in the forest with little Timmy Senor and Samantha Mowat and Merle looking for some monsters. I'm pumped up about it. Tonight we are talking monsters and Bigfoot. Sean Forker is here tonight. Dirty Filth also here with another great cartoon. Glad to have you all here, everyone. Seriously glad. And let's say hello to all of you tonight who have decided to share your time with us. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position. Kurt M. taking home the silver with Debster in the bronze medal tonight. Hi, Lisa C. and Human Carl, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you, Human Carl, for your great service. And we very much appreciate you. Major Lee, Brown Dwarf, Free Your Mind. How are you? And who else do we have here? There's Dirty Filth already in the chat room. Dino Bravo fan, John Corner. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Who else do we have? Jenny White Bear, good to see you. Hey, Gee, Mike Schmidt. Mike Smith will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. By the way, I forgot that cot today. I knew I'd forget it. Number 17 in your program, starting at right wing from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. Underscore Maddie, your hair's looking fantastic tonight. Thank you for joining us. Jessica. And who else do we have hanging on out? Let's take a look. Luscious Jules, nice to see you. Paramarv, good to have you back. Chillgasm, thank you for coming on in. Pixie Lara and Bobby Farron. Bobby Farron will be signing autographs after the show. Light up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Millennium, my man, Lucy, and who else do we have? Corey, nice to have you all here. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Derek Galloway, good to see you. And let's see who else is here. Mama Catherine, mwah, to you. We love you around here, my dear. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Thank you for coming on in. D. Henderson, how are you? Lee the Bee, Mama Susan, or make that Susan Alloway. How are you all? And Richard Elmore, Bryson's Folly, nice to have you back. Gee Calgary, how you doing, buddy? T-Bone, and who else is here? Richard Elmore, we've said. Dutch UFO, good to have you back. Let's see here. Dave Scott, while you and Timbo are playing grab ass and gallivanting around the woods, what are we supposed to do? Well, you hang out here with Marquise. He's a pretty good guy. Phil the Stalker, thanks for coming on in. And Jerry O'Brien, Cowboys 5 Strings, welcome back. And Laura Lobbs. And there's Debster once again with the bronze medal showing it off. All right, Christine Lynn, good to see you. Agent 420, welcome to SOR chat. Science Melinda, Nick Adkins, Evan Walters, already pissing me off. Let's see here. Jerry O'Brien and Lily Pond. W. Decker, good to have you here. Hi, Ozzy Sue. And who else do we got here? The Mac Geek, nice to have you back. And I think we are caught up. Oh, there's W. Decker kicking off the super chat tonight. Thank you, W. Decker. And we appreciate everything you do for us around here, my man. Thank you for the love. Raymond L., good to have you here. Let's start the radio side so we can let Bill WD40 into the chat room, because with Bill WD40, he lubes us up each and every show. All right, Vaughn Patrick, good to have you here. I am suffering from injuries tonight. Yeah, I woke up this morning with a little plantar fasciitis in my heel. And then tonight, my love of battling wasps started. I took 3 shots tonight, 3 stings. It's more stings than I've got in the last 40 years. Yeah, I'm going to get them bastards. Vaughn Patrick, Noble Patrick, and who else is here? Sycophia, nice to have you back. Kevin, good to see you. And let's see here. Hi, Vanessa. How are you? Okay, horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. A great show of Monster Talk tonight. Sean Forker is here to talk Bigfoot and Fortean research. Then in hour number 3, it's jam-packed. Steve Stockton has a great story from Among the Missing. Then, after that, Shane Michael Crisp has the Cryptid Report. Following that, it's Dave 101 night and the strange news of the week. Okay, let's do this thing. Sean Forker is a Fortean investigator with a primary focus on the research of Sasquatch. He became involved in the paranormal at an early age, heavily influenced by his father and grandfather, with such shows such as Unsolved Mystery, In Search of, and Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, always being on the television in the household. By the age of 9, he began reading heavily into Bigfoot and entered into the field of work at 17. He's been a member of the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society, and he now steps out on his own. Height unknown, weight unknown. Sometimes he wears a mask so Bigfoot cannot recognize him. Sean Forker, my good friend, it's always good to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. How you been?
I've been great, Dave. No one kicks a show off like you. That's what I have to say. So much energy.
Well, you know what? It drains me right off the bat. Now it's just suffering. Now it's just suffering. You know, I'm very much loving the topic of Bigfoot because I want to see one again this year. And it's a rarity. It is complex. It is fun. It is boring. It is anticipation. It is absolute dreariness because of weather. You know, why do you enjoy being a monster hunter so much?
Well, Dave, it's a mystery, right? Like at the end of the day, with so much going on in our world and so much we can explain, there's just a lot of phenomena happening out there that we still can. And the fact that there's potentially an upright, hairy, some sort of creature roaming around the forests of North America, Canada, and the world, like it's still exciting. And it just shows that there are still limits to what we know to be true. And I just like being outdoors too. So you get to combine all those elements into one, and you have one heck of a time.
You started at such a young age, at 17.
Oh yeah.
You were, as your bio said, you were very heavily influenced by your father and grandfather. How did they influence you to fall in love with this topic?
Well, my dad and my grandfather were never researchers. They've liked it from afar. I just remember always growing up, grandpa pops always had books around the house, strange creatures from the Amazon, a book from Vincent Price called Monsters that I still have upstairs in my at my bookshelves. It was always on around the house, and it was always talked about. It wasn't kind of cast aside, or if you talked about it with serious discussion, it wasn't like, oh, you stupid silly kid, go hide or go do something else, get out of my way. It's, if I had questions, they were really willing to talk to me about it. On a way to a family beach trip, I've been known to be a talker. I wouldn't stop talking. I was driving my dad nuts. He picked up a book. The book happened to be John Green's Sasquatch, The Apes Among Us. And that set my world on fire. That changed everything I thought, because then Bigfoot wasn't just contained to the Pacific Northwest anymore. There's a whole chapter on Eastern action. It was in my home state of Pennsylvania, and it became even more real that there's the potential that this being wasn't just, a story. It's in more places than just, a place I may not get to see it. So as a kid, having those influences around, always being able to be open and talk about it, just kind of, it wasn't unusual, and it wasn't out of the realm of possibility for me.
How much do you enjoy, and I know you don't do this, none of us really do this, but how much do you enjoy if you go up to a kid or something? Yeah, I hunt monsters. I mean, have you ever done that? I've done that to my son's friends. And they're like, whoa, you hunt monsters? Like, what kind of monsters do you hunt? Do you ever do that? Do you ever give yourself that little bit of fun?
Yeah. So it's funny you brought this up. I was out with a friend of mine and his wife for dinner a few weeks ago. And years ago, I had done a Bigfoot themed birthday party for his kids, his son and his friends. And it was one of the best parties they've ever done. Their son's 17 now. They still talk about that birthday party every year. It was great to have this audience of kids. You're talking about 7 or 8 years old, Dave, that were just enthralled of the footprint casts I had on the table, all the stories we could talk about with Bigfoot, answering all their questions. They were really engaged because I made it real for them. It wasn't just a fantasy. And of course, then we had a guy dressed up in a suit, and we had a Bigfoot, hunt, and they were really beating that Bigfoot with some sticks. I felt bad for the man in that costume, but it was a great time. But just to see these kids engaged, and honestly, just to be excited about science, it was great to see them enthused about it. And still, from my own kids to friends, like, it's not a joke. Some people really enjoy this and really believe it to be, legitimate science.
I just love the idea of being able to, head on out to the forest, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know if that's the day you see something, if it's the day you see nothing. And, it's like golfing and praying for that first hole in one, and I know when I played golf, and one of the greatest things I ever did, Sean, in my life was quit playing golf because it drove me nuts. But, but when I did play golf, trying to sink that hole in one on a par 3 or a short par 4 was always the goal, and I came close a couple of times within a couple of feet, but never ever got the ace. And Sasquatch hunting is kind of like, I hate to use the term hunting because it's not, more investigation. It's kind of like that, where you never know when you're going to hit that hole in one.
The analogy is, it's like looking for a needle in the haystack with the needle always moving, right? So it is a crapshoot, but so much of it, when people ask what it's like, the first thing I tell them is it's really boring the majority of the time. Unless you like spending time out in the woods with nothing going on, you're not going to get a lot of excitement out of it. And very rarely does something happen. And like I said, I've been doing this since I was, 9 years old, out in the field for, 17. So for all these years now, Dave, I've been doing this a handful of times. I've had experiences where I could say, man, that's unusual. That's, I can't explain that with anything known. But the rest of the time, it's just being out in the woods, enjoying nature, having a good time. And my approach is a little different. We don't go out there like a bunch of, half-assed commandos. We go out looking, like guys out going for a hike. We don't go out loaded with the gear. And 9 times out of 10, when people have these experiences, they're out there just doing normal activities, Dave. To me, for the life of me, I don't understand why there's the compulsion to go out looking like some sort of, discount special ops team. I don't get it.
It's funny you mention that, because my group is the exact same way with what we do. We park our vehicles. The one thing that I have learned from listening to all these great investigators like you and Stan Gordon and Lon Strickler and Butch Witkowski, God rest his soul, friend of yours and mine. Okay. Ronald Murphy, the crypto guru, and many others, is you don't have to go trouncing through the forest and find every deer trail. Okay. Sasquatch is, at least as far as I have been able to peg from you guys, it's a creature that loves habit. It loves curiosity. It loves the same thing. And so when we go out, we don't do much. We go out, we have an area. We park our vehicles in the exact same spots each and every time. We do our little due diligence of, telling the forest dwellers that, hey, we are armed, but this gun is not for you, Sasquatch. This is for any apex predators out there who might want to come and say hello in a vicious way. Okay, we go out and we check our areas, footprints, see what kind of, because there's a lot of animal tracks around there. In our area, we have wolves, we have moose, we have deer, we have grizzly bears, we have black bears. We got a lot going on in that area. And then we sit and we listen. And if my son is there, there's a big dirt pile there that he likes to play in. Well, what happens? Sasquatch likes the sound of happy children. It attracts him. It makes him curious. And that's what we do. We're not hitting every deer trail. We are waiting for them to come to us. And maybe that's not the way it should happen. Maybe it's not the way that it works for everybody else. But so far, it's paid off for us in weird ways.
Well, it's a great approach. And let's be honest, the last great footage of a Bigfoot was taken in 1967. Okay, we're well past due for the next big Bigfoot film to be brought out to the public. That, I should say, that's publicly released 1960. Who knows what's really out there in family collections, vaults, or what have you. All the gizmos and gadgets you take out, Dave, they distract you from what's going on around you. You're more dialed in using the tech than you are focusing on the natural scape around you. And so you're dulling your natural senses. And that's why I'm not a big gear guy, because I think it takes you away. You're more distracted trying to get yourself set up than you are paying attention to what's going on around you. And does that mean, I don't know if we're going to get the proof we need that way. And I don't begrudge anybody who takes the time to get the gear together and do it. I'm just telling you that it hasn't netted us a lot of results. Being normal, doing everyday things seems to be a much more practical approach than gearing up, ready to go to war with the Sasquatch.
Well, and why piss them off in their own territory? Sure. I mean, that's a big one, that I don't understand. I mean, you or me or anybody out there in the forest who thinks that because we're human that we are the number one predator in that area. Statistically speaking, it may be true, but in reality, it's nowhere close to being true.
No. And again, it's only number one because we perceive ourselves to be that way, because we don't have, real tangible proof of anything else being, and think about that as a concern to the general public. Should a disclosure of a Sasquatch be a real creature? Where does it fall in the chain of the proverbial food chain, or what have you? Is it the apex predator? And here we are just borrowing the time and borrowing the space. I don't know. That's a question that would have a lot of, be a lot of, thinking that would have to go into that.
If you read the note below, this is my good buddy Mike, and he's like, Dave's boy has the innate ability to know when one is around us in the bush. It's uncanny. So I'm going to tell you a little story here. So about a week and a half ago, we were out in the forest, and we were doing our thing. And it's about 9:45 at night. I like going in the evening, right when it gets right at that pitch where daytime is turning to dusk, turning to dark. That's where I find it most comforting looking for them. I don't know how, if you're like that or not.
I am.
But, yeah. And so we're sitting on the tailgate of Mike's truck, and Mike is very well versed in the forest. Very well versed. There are two people I trust in the forest. He's one of them. And my other buddy, Mark, is one of them as well. And we're sitting on his tailgate, and all of a sudden Mike whispers over to me, I just get this feeling we're being watched. And he kind of points over to the left of us. And probably, from where we are to the trees is about 100 feet. And then it gets pretty thick into the forest from there. No word of a lie, my son, who is about 25 feet away, all of a sudden jumps up from his dirt pile that he's been playing in, distracted in, and he jumps up and he goes, Dad, they're here. I said, who's here? He goes, the ones we're here looking for. They're here. And I said, okay. Where? And he points in the exact direction that Mike had just pointed.
Wow.
And my son got confused. I said, well, can we see them? He's like, no, they're in the trees. I said, but they can see us? He goes, yes. I said, well, how big are they? And he got confused here because he said 10 to 15 meters tall. But I asked him, I said, do you mean feet tall? He goes, yeah, the one in the tree is about 15 feet tall.
Wow.
I said, how do you know this? He goes, I saw 2 bars of light and a little bit of trickle of light go into the trees. He goes, that's how I know. And I went, okay. And then a little bit later, he jumps out of nowhere and he goes, the second one's here. Something along those lines. I said, where? And this time it was on the opposite side of us. And he's like, we don't need to worry. They're not here to harm us. He goes, they're just curious of what we're doing. I said, well, are they going to show themselves tonight? He goes, I don't think so. We never saw them, never heard them, nothing.
I know kids have they're on a different plane than we are. We hear that all the time in haunting stories and everything else. They're just not adulterated by the world we live in. They have that ability to see things. I think that's fully a reality.
We pay attention when he speaks. I don't treat my 10-year-old like a child or oh, that's just imagination. What if it is true? What if it is there? He was there the night we saw, my buddy Mike was there too, last year on Canadian Thanksgiving weekend, when we saw the 10-footer. So it's very possible. Very possible. And like you were saying earlier, when you're in the forest, you have to allow your intuition to take over. You don't have to believe in psychic ability or anything like that, but you have to allow your senses to take over. And it's amazing how quick they actually do the minute you step into the forest, Sean.
Yeah, when you're paying attention to what's going on around you, right? And again, like I said, it kind of goes back to my thought process that people just distract themselves intentionally or unintentionally trying to get proof when all they really have to do is pay attention. And what is proof? Would a photographic piece of evidence or video even be good enough anymore, Dave? Like in the world of AI and Photoshop and effects, is it really good enough? I mean, yeah, you could make the argument that special effects, you can still CGI looks CGI no matter how good it gets, but I just don't know anymore. Sadly, I think it is, to get the ultimate recognition, going to take a body. I don't want to be the one to do it. I know inevitably it's going to happen, but so much effort and time is being spent into this, but still not by the real scientific community. And you made a good point where you said you don't have to believe in psychic ability, which I think is, there's a lot of things in this you don't have to believe in. You don't even have to fully believe in the existence of this thing to have an encounter with one. Most people that encounter it had no, idea that this was a potentiality. And it's just putting your heart to it.
I agree. With 3 minutes to go here, I can tell you right now, I don't want to sound like a negative Nelly, okay, but I really believe the days of us actually finding the next Patterson Gimlin film or that next high quality photo, I think it's over.
Yeah.
I really do think it's over with the way AI is taken over and the way a lot of things are going on right now. I just don't think it's possible that we can actually believe any sort of video that comes out.
Oh, agreed.
And it's sad.
It is. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. It's going to be a lot more difficult to discern, and then you're just wasting time that we could be out in the search while we're sitting at our computer screen scrutinizing pixels and metadata to see what, if somebody messed with an image or video.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. How do we prove a creature if we're not going to believe the film? Because this also, Sean, this carries over to the paranormal, and it's the exact same where the proof problem is with all the skeptics in the UFO world. Well, you show them a video, that's fake. You show them a video, that's a balloon. That's Venus, that's whatever. You show them a photograph, oh, that's touched up. What is proof?
For Bigfoot, I think it's going to need to be a body. It's going to need to be a body on a slab that scientists can dissect and take apart. That's sad. Unless there's a breakthrough in one of these other paranormal topics like UFOs. Let's be honest, this UFO phenomenon has blown up in the last couple of years more than I ever thought it would in my lifetime. With even people in the United States government jumping on saying, hey, we need some answers on this now. There has to be something like that to happen in the Bigfoot field, Dave, for it to have that sort of credibility without needing some sort of body. Rather, it's Grandma Jean driving down a logging road in the middle of the night and hits one with her station wagon, or, one of these, commandos go out there and bag one. It's sad, but I think it will take a body to satisfy that proof of reality of the Sasquatch.
Well, you know what? It's sad to say that that's might be what it would take. I mean, the hard part for me is I don't even know what this creature is. That's the hard part for me right now. I don't know if it's a physical creature. I don't know if it's a supernatural creature, if it's an alien. I don't know.
We don't. And that takes it even crazier in terms of, I'm sure we'll talk about that, but that takes us into other realms of possibility for this being that are really questioning the traditional mindset that this is a flesh and blood being.
Mm-hmm. And we should remind people, too, as we go to break here, Sean Forker is our guest tonight. If you want to go out into the forest, just go. Just go. The one thing about this is the chances of you being around a Sasquatch is much higher than you actually think, and it's not that far away from home. Just be safe out there. Sean Forker is our guest. When we return, what is Sasquatch? What do you think it is? Is it real? Is it fake? Is it something else? It's Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear. That was a quick half hour.
Goes by fast.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That is awesome.
I'm getting caught up in the joy of painting down there.
Oh, let's bring up Dirty here. Dirtith, show us what you're doing here. You got to put your microphone on.
I was muted, Dave.
I know you were muted. You're working on something in the forest.
What do we got here? It looks like possibly Sasquatch and Mothman, maybe.
Mm-hmm. W. Decker, I just noticed the question on your second super chat. I don't normally ask questions in hour 2 or in hour 1, as you know, but this one I am going to ask because I think it's weird that you asked that, and very good weird. So I'll fill you in when I ask that question. Susie B, how are you, my dear? Where's Blobbert tonight, Filth?
Still warm outside, so she's probably a puddle on the back step.
Hi, Shelly. Hi, Mike Harrington. Yep, little Timmy Senor, Merle, Samantha Mowat. They'll be at SOR HQ about 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm excited. And hi, Nina Williams. How are you? I know somewhere hiding is the lovely and talented cryptid huntress, Jessica Jones.
Hey, Dave, are you going to all drive down to Edmonton and visit me for pizza?
You know what, Filth? That may happen sooner than you think.
Bring your book so I can sign it.
I'm thinking of taking a little family vacation to the Edmund-Chuck area.
Can pet my cats, too. You can meet Blob in person, Dave.
I would love a picture with Blob.
I think we can do that. There's enough snacks.
Yeah. Guy, I am pumped up about tomorrow too, buddy. Yep. So if you want to, hey, NeuroStream, how you doing? Is there a UFO report tonight? No, it's Dave 101 night tonight, Neuro, but it will be on UFOs. Justin Hemmingson. Last time I went to an Edmonton Eskimos game, because I refused to call them the Elks. It was the day after the big tornado in 1987 that ripped apart Edmonton and Spruce Grove and all those areas. I was on the golf course with my dad when that happened. All right. Dennis Zuniga, a great veteran. How you doing, buddy? Thank you for your service. Belenia, my man. All you had to do was call. Jose, where are you from? Where are you from, Jose? I'm going to start next week. By the way, next week on the pegboard behind me, I'm going to start pegging on where you guys are from. So when I call it out, you got to let me know, and I will put it up there. Brendan Shanahan is the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Gross.
He's a Hockey Hall of Famer. He's got, I think, 3 Stanley Cups, at least 2. Olympic gold medal, world championship gold. One of the toughest power forwards hockey has ever seen. Love the guy. All right. Thank you, W. Decker ×2 and Deb for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Also, hit subscribe, ring that bell if you are new. We'd greatly appreciate it. And here we go, everyone, with the next half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We had a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Sean Forker is here. He is a monster hunter on the looking for the ultimate Sasquatch experience. Sean, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm going to hit you right off the bat here, man. What is Bigfoot to you?
Well, that's the billion-dollar question, right? Bigfoot, what is it? To me, all objects point to some sort of flesh and blood being. However, there are a lot of situations with this entity that just don't make sense, that don't fit into the flesh and blood bucket either. And I can acknowledge that. I think from a comfort level, and from what I've investigated, it leaves physical footprints. It leaves, droppings. It leaves, hair sample. To me, it points out to flesh and blood, but that's not always what other people experience. So based on my experience and what I've encountered, flesh and blood, but that doesn't mean I'm right.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought that too. When I first started getting into Bigfoot as a kid, it was one of the things that just intrigued me, thanks to the old $6 Million Man, and where he would fight Bigfoot in the tunnel that was always spinning, which is still at Universal Studios, which is kind of cool. But I remember, thinking, man, I don't want to run into one of these in the forest. They could be anywhere. And then I started talking to a number as I entered adulthood, started talking to a lot of First Nations people. And that's where I started getting the idea that this might not be a flesh and blood. And that's why I say, like, when somebody asks me what's a Bigfoot, I don't know.
Sure.
I know what I've seen, but I don't know. And I think it's great to have opinion. My opinion differs than yours, but you know what? At least we can have an open-minded conversation and sit there and say, it could be this, though. I believe this. I believe it's flesh and blood, but I'm not throwing out the other options just because I want to make a name for myself.
Sure. And that's irresponsible to do. I mean, there have been so many different types of experiences individuals have had with this being, even predating what's happening in the white people's textbooks, Dave. Just because it's not in our recorded history, we know the First Nations people have had encounters with this, what they consider to be a spiritual being more than some flesh and blood creature. But then we also have had individuals, posts that have had what could we call it, kind of a tongue-in-cheek close encounters of the third kind with some sort of extraterrestrial experience with a Bigfoot. So, I mean, it's real hard to narrow down and definitively say, I'm right. This is, I'm right because of this, when, the plain simple answer to your question is we don't know. Anybody who says we do know is just grasping at straws. based upon the evidence that they have, and that's what they're building their foundation on. But you can't do that responsibly and neglect everything else out there.
Why do you think we want to do that? Is it just human design? Is it science? Why do you think we are that way?
I think from a comfort perspective, it's a lot more comfortable to acknowledge this as an animal than it is something extraterrestrial, because look how many people just, struggle with the fact of the existence of extraterrestrial life, on other planets or from other places. I mean, I think we can't rule out interdimensional, right? That just because we don't have the potential or the or we don't have the ability to do some of these things, we're very limited by what we know, Dave, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If we can't think outside that box or make it happen, it just doesn't exist and it can't be real. And so we don't have the ability to shift between the dimensions, or we don't have the ability to interstellar travel. These things just can't be a reality to us. And like I said, from a comfort perspective, it's easier for people to accept it as being an animal. It's a lot easier for people to accept that than they think it's a missing link or a form of primitive man or somewhere along the line that chain. So it goes into comfort. I think science is going to be a lot more willing to accept this as being a flesh and blood creature, I truly believe. So where people have put their eggs in that basket, I think it's just purely out of comfort, but it does ignore a lot of stories and a lot of sightings that have happened that say, other things.
Yeah, and I can see that, and that's what I think is part of the downfall of why we haven't found anything. Because if you're looking for site A and this creature is walking or doing something, trotting around on site C, you're always going to miss it. There Absolutely. Is no choice. I mean, so for you, tell our audience about some of the closer encounters you have had with this creature.
Well, I've had rock throwing and eye shine in a very active area of Pennsylvania called Gray Station in the early 2000s with a couple other investigators. We were sitting alongside a track of an active train track called Gray Station. And, not long before that, a Sasquatch had been observed picking up a dead deer from the train track, throwing it over its shoulder and walking away, was observed by a runner. So we chose that area to go, hang out and investigate. And like I said, we had rocks thrown at us, but no definitive sighting of something besides some eye shine. And then again, that I talked about the last time I was on the program with you, my own experience in 2012, in the fall of 2012 with my, best friend Dustin and my, best friend brother Ray. We were out in Clearfield County, Pennsylvania, a very active area of PA. We had a lot of activity that year, a lot of sighting reports up in that area. We hosted a town hall up in that area, Dave, where we had a lot of folks come and tell us their stories. And previous to that, we had some other activity in a town not far from where we were investigating. That night we had our encounter, and that night we had a sighting. We were camping. Something ran through our campsite at the fire that night. We were all amped up. We went to bed to get up early in the morning and see if we could solicit any more activity. When we went into bed, into the tents, a little while later, we heard something walking around our campsite. We get out. As we go to get out of the tent, something had put the logs back on the fire, and the fire had rekindled itself after we had put it out. We had a second sighting as that thing ran up the embankment near our tent and ran around the perimeter. You could hear it take off around the perimeter of our campsite. We were really scared. I had run to the middle of the campsite because we had one bar of service, Dave, in that area. And I had called out to a friend of mine's wife who lived in the area to see if he had made it home. He had not. She had gotten a hold of him. About 45 minutes later, he came back, and I wanted him to get us the hell out of there. And he he kind of talked us up, got us comfortable. He said, man, you guys wanted, to get this, activity and excitement. You got to stay with it. So they were there for a while. Nothing happened. They left. And about an hour after they left, Dave, this thing came back to our campsite again. Uh, we had seen it behind a tree. One of the guys threw a glow stick, and it hit the ground out in the area near this object. And after a couple moments, it picked the glow stick up. And as we yelled at it, it threw the glow stick down. You could see it bounce. You could hear this thing move off. We did a bluff charge towards it, the three of us together, and it, took off. You could hear it running. It started to rain a little bit. We went back into our tent. Bright flash of light, Dave. Brilliant flash of light. We had stayed up a few more hours till light hit. Threw everything into a Rubbermaid tote. Ran the hell out of there as fast as we could. Got back to my van. I called home, and I hadn't gone back to that area. I didn't go back to that area for about 4 or 5 years. It scared me so bad because of this thing repeat visiting us over the course of that evening. And we had seen it. It was a very large, probably 7 to 8 foot tall, but it wasn't big and bulky like a lot of the descriptions. It was very, I said, like an NBA player kind of build. It was built, but it moved, Dave. That was what got me. It glided through the air like a sloth almost. It just, I've never seen anything move like that so fluidly through the woods, like not worrying about any trees or obstructions. It just moved so fluidly. And because it kept coming back, it scared the hell out of me. And I had gotten home, and I called Lon Strickler, and I had talked to, Butch and Eric Altman and told them what happened. And I was done. I didn't want to do this anymore because that encounter really scared the crap out of us. Not that I ever felt it was going to hurt us, but because we were out there and so isolated, it was really scary, and it was really traumatic. And like, I just can't get over that feeling we had that night. And that flash of light, I had later called and asked the guys when they put the trail cameras up. I said, you might want to go back and take a look and see if you got anything on the camera, because there was a flash off one of those guys. And Dave, Rupert, plainly said to me, Sean, none of those cameras had flashes on them.
Wow.
And we have no idea what that flash was. Now, we had gone back years later. Like I said, it took me 4 years to go back to this area. But when I was out there with Dave Rupert and his wife and Brian and Terry Seach, we had experienced a flash of light again, non-localized light, just a flash of light that we can't explain to this day. And I was told, Dave, by somebody that we were visited by an ultra-terrestrial, not a Sasquatch.
You got some aliens.
Yeah, we don't know, right? And it just the fact of how we felt, and I mean, it was hair covered. It was large. It glided through. Like I said, how it moved was so fluid and quick. It was, it was scary. And I talk about it now. I've been really talking about this a lot lately as in preparation of writing the book and doing some presentations. I had talked about it, and it made me very uncomfortable. And I'm starting to finally come out of that feeling with it. But it was life-changing for me. But because of how it moved and looked to me, it felt like it was biological. But you have that flash of light you can't explain, and that suggestion, you don't know what it is. And I'm not the only person that ever experienced some sort of light phenomena with a Bigfoot.
I got to tell you, this leads into W. Decker's question from the last half hour. Are orbs ever seen in conjunction with Bigfoot sightings or experiences?
Yeah.
Here's the funny part. Well, it's not really funny, but here's the intriguing part for me about this question. Last year, a few weeks before we had our encounter, we were out in the forest. We don't have fireflies around here, or lightning bugs, whatever you want to call them. Okay, we don't have them. But last year, about 5 weeks before our sighting, we actually watched these white orbs. It almost looked like fairies, like popping in and out of the trees. And all of a sudden, a few weeks ago, what did we see in the trees? We started seeing the bright white flashes of light again. We're in the middle of nowhere, okay? We are, just so you know, we're like 18 miles from town into the forest. This is where we're playing. There's no people around. There's nobody camping. You know, there's a fire ban anyways, so can't have a fire. There's nobody running around our area with a flashlight. Okay, we're the only ones there. And yet there's these flashes of light. I'm wondering, and I'm going to throw this at you because I know sometimes you like to go into the woo. Do you think that maybe those flashes of light are the start of the Sasquatch coming around?
Well, they very well could be, but I'll share this with you. We had light phenomena videoed. I believe it was last year, the year before now, when I was out with Eric Altman, Rick Chirby, his wife, Rebecca, my buddy, Adam. We were all out, my friend, Tom, we were all out in this area in Southwest PA in the Chestnut Ridge. And we videotaped that same kind of whitish orbs going through the trees. Rebecca, she videoed it. Like I hadn't encountered this until that particular moment where I've seen that light phenomenon myself. It very well could be an indicator of that, Dave. I don't know. Like I said, it's be something I'm becoming familiar with, but as I go back and think about, these experiences I've had and these non-localized phenomena of light that have no explanation, I start to think, like, before we've had activity, is this something that's more common than I even realized? And it was Mark Matsky who was writing. Mark Matsky from the Small Town Monsters group. They make the Bigfoot films. He had sent me an email, asking about some of my encounters. And one of the things he asked was about light phenomena. And it's not something I really entertained until I started going back and thinking about the encounters and the experiences we had. And these just lights happening for no reason. And I can even go back to about 2007 when I really just started getting out into the field with taking groups of people out. I had about a half a dozen people with me that we all experienced a light flash for no reason. Just a localized big umbrella of light and then done. So I can't explain those, but there has to be at some point, I think we have to say it's a little bit more than a coincidence.
I think so. And for me, I'm going to throw something really woo-like out there. I'm wondering, like, if you look at the Army or a military organization, they send out the first few people to go check things out. I'm wondering if these orbs, these white orbs, are something that Sasquatch or the phenomena sends out to gauge our reaction, to see if we've caught on.
Like a probe.
Yes.
Almost.
Not an alien probe.
It could very well be. We've had reports of these things holding these orbs in their hands, Dave. Like reports from Southwest Pennsylvania on the Chestnut Ridge, and folks that are familiar with Bigfoot and, Pennsylvania Bigfoot, because that's, where I live, Stan Gordon in the 70s collected a plethora of unusual creature sightings and UFO sightings in the early 1970s. He's written on it, Silent Invasion. It's, still an authority on the subject, speaks about it quite often. There has to be something to it. The fact, like I said, you have people observed these Bigfoot creatures holding these orbs. We've had a lady, from one of Stan's stories where she opens her front door. There's one standing there. She takes a shotgun, takes a shot at it. The thing explodes into light. She takes a shot at it, poof, into a burst of light. It goes. How do you quantify that into something, known science? Dave, that becomes these high strangeness stories that, really set parts of Pennsylvania off, and why I think Pennsylvania researchers a lot of times are a little ahead of the curve, because they've acknowledged this, as we call it today, this woo, before a lot of, the contemporaries across the country have. And why? I don't know why it's seen and observed in that area, or maybe it's observed a lot more than we admit, and people just omit it from the reports.
Could be. And I'm just, I've never really got into this whole orb phenomena regarding Sasquatch. Do they come in different colors? Are people seeing blue orbs, red orbs, orange orbs around?
I wanted to say greenish, like a lightish green orb is what I've seen. I've had one of my esteemed colleagues I've spent a lot of time with in the field seen a doorway open. Like
No.
yeah, and
You got to tell that story.
Yeah, like he's was out in the woods doing a regular Bigfoot activity. My mentor and him. Now, only one of the gentlemen seen it, and he said it looked like a door just opened up and something went into it, like went in and it closed behind it, like a physical like portal doorway, right in the middle of the woods. And I can't explain that. And this is somebody I hold in high esteem. I've researched with. I find them very credible, and I can't explain that. That's far beyond anything I could sit down and tell you about, because up until then you'd only heard it in these anecdotal stories were from questionable sources. So when you get it from somebody you hold in high regard, that makes it different. I'm sorry, it does.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I totally agree. We got 3 minutes to go before we got to go to break here at the top of the hour. Sean Forker is our guest tonight. We're talking orbs and Sasquatch. Do you think that there is a lot more towards Sasquatch than just orbs? What about the infrasound that people talk about?
Well, infrasound is something I've had firsthand experience with. I believe when I was with another researcher who's actually a park ranger, I won't use his name. He and I were together, had this huge crash of sound through the brush. He was hit with this sense of euphoria. I was hit with this overwhelming sense of fear and nausea. I was kind of doubled over, ready to vomit everything that was in my stomach. He was kind of like just sensory overload. Crash happened. I chased after it when fight or flight kicked in. Again, I really firmly believe it was an infrasonic response that we had. I've known animals use infrasound, Dave. We've documented it in elephants, tigers use it to stun their prey. It's noted in biological species that we know exist. I would have no reason as to doubt that the Sasquatch has this ability, considering a lot of reports how people are hit with this feeling out of nowhere. It makes sense. And using it to communicate through the trees, it can cover long distances and obstructions with no problem.
We noticed ours in our area week by week. It started off with the orbs. The next week, there were UFOs in the sky. Like we watched a triangle morph right in front of us up in the sky. It was beautiful. Disappeared just as fast too. We noticed one time where the minute we turned up on the logging road to go up to our area, all of us felt weird things. One was very heavy in the shoulders. I was seeing alien grays everywhere up on the road. I'd look at a tree, I'd see the shape and head of a face. You pull up to it and you realize it's pareidolia. That happened about 8-10 times on the way up there. And we got up there, I wouldn't even let my son out of the vehicle. Something creepy was there. Go back the week later, nothing happened. Go back the week later, we get our sighting. And his friend in the way in the background yelling "woo" like Ric Flair. And then 15 minutes after that, woo again like Ric Flair, except closer. We had him there. It was awesome. Sean, I'm going to get you to hold on right there when we come back from the break here on Spaced Out Radio in hour number 2. We'll get to audience questions along with more Sasquatch stories. Sean Forker, Fortean researcher, a man whose hair is always cut to the perfect length. Always. That's why Sasquatch loves him so much. We will be back with hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio. All right. The other side are Gildo. I had to put my dogs down in June. They were old, and we decided that it would be best to put them down together. So that's what happened to my pups. Chedwin, how you doing? Lacey Blue, nice to see you back. Holly, what's happening, my man? Good to see you again. And who else do we have here? Juliana, good to see you. There is a national site, Mama Catherine, called BFRO, but nobody really trusts them. They tend to lie about their statistics.
You're not going to get anything we talked about tonight on that website.
No, definitely not. Wham Bam Ham, how you doing? And Dirty Filth, we're going to turn it over to you here. I got to go check on my wasp collection after I got stung 3 times tonight. I'll be right back.
That's because he never ate his vegetables. Dave. All right, I got to let my paint dry here. Because it just slopped the water on. Well, how's your night going so far?
Oh, it's fantastic. There's bad thunderstorms going on here, so I'm kind of glad everything's staying functional.
I haven't really had very many thunder boomers here where I live in the last little while.
We hadn't all year, but like all of a sudden the last couple weeks, it's been some pretty strong storms. I'm loving the colors on this.
It looks like a blob of nothing right now, but once it dries up and I can get the ink on it, oh yeah, here's the one from the other night that I did. It's a little Tic Tac with the Loch Ness Monster.
Tic Tacs are becoming all the thing, man. UAPs now, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't really seem to. Apparently, I thought it was unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah.
But then it became something.
They changed it again.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't keep up with this stuff.
Me either.
I don't get enough time. I gotta feed my cats twice a day and draw cartoons. Oh, I think it was anomalous phenomena. Then first it was aerial and then anomalous, I think it was. Just trying to rack my brain here. I can't remember. I'm not an encyclopedia.
Doesn't take into consideration the submersible, unidentified submersibles, right?
I think that stuff's just fascinating that everyone's always, aliens come from the sky. Yeah, but what about the ones that come from the water?
Yeah.
That's discrediting. Well, not discrediting. It's just ignoring a lot of, like, oh, Earth's like 70% water or whatever. We don't know the depths of the oceans. Okay.
There's 70% water with 95% of it unexplored.
I'm not sure if I just pulled 70% out of my.
That's pretty close. I think
air, so
we are a lot of water on this big orb.
And we can't even breathe like 2 inches underneath it. It's like another space, basically. But I guess people have traversed the waters for a long time.
Yeah, but again, like they said, 95% of it underwater, unexplored. That's crazy to me. But it gets pretty deep in some spots.
I was wondering if there's like aquatic humanoids that live underwater.
Well, that lake, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, in Russia.
Lake Baikal.
Baikal, yeah. Like that
was an interesting story.
Yeah, the humanoids, I guess, that live under the water there.
I actually drew a cartoon of that. I can't dig it out right now. It's under like 500 pages, but I did draw a cartoon of that.
Like, just an example of what you said, though, underwater humanoids. Why could there not be?
I guess the thing would be is they just go, well, it's Russia or Soviet Union at the time, and they're lying. But then it's like, oh, well, we had a crash and they recovered bodies. I bet you like Poland's like, yeah, they're lying.
Oh, they could even say the same thing in Sasquatch research, though. You know, they've had the Almasty over there, the Almas stories of large, you know, hairy, upright, humanoid hominid people out that way. And of course, even the theory that Sasquatch crossed the Bering Strait, the Bering Land Bridge, and came to North America that way. Like, it's rooted in Sasquatch lore too. A lot of strange things happen in that part of the world over in Russia.
Hey, I got a question. You ever get anything about albino Sasquatch?
Yeah, actually, a couple stories in PA about that. In the 70s, early 70s, we go back to Stan Gordon. He had some accounts of albino Bigfoot.
That's interesting. My friend has a really good story about that. Anyways, Dave, I promise I didn't swear once.
You lie. You lie so much.
A lying liar that lies.
But if I end up in Edmonton, will you come for pizza?
Of course, Dave. I got it covered because you're a guest in my town.
All right. Big thank you to W. Decker with the hat trick of super chats. Mike and Deb, thank you so much for the love and support. If you're new here, hit subscribe, ring that bell. We are here literally 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. Here we go with hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here is hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Demotic. Demotic is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Once again, Sean Forker is here. We're talking chasing Sasquatch in the forests of North America, and what a show it has been so far. Do you buy the fact that maybe orbs are a leader into this phenomena? I don't know. Sean, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. Great combo so far tonight.
I think we're having a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So the way you investigate, explain to me, let's say I have a sighting and I call you up and I'm like, or I hit you up on the internet or email or wherever it may be. I say, Sean, this is what's happened. This is the area that it happened. I saw a 7-foot creature walking away from my campsite, and my dog went absolutely crazy, chased it. I haven't seen my dog since. I'm a little freaked out. Any chance of you getting down here? Let's say it's close by you. Tell me what you do in order to get to that area as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. One of the first things I do is usually call my research partner and say, hey, how quick can you gear up and get out with me? We got an active case here. Call the witness, set up a time to go out and meet. I as soon as possible, of course, I like to respond, ASAP to these things. Sometimes what we find is the reportee that takes their time getting back to us after we try to make that initial contact. But if we can get out there really quick, we go out, I sit down with them, go over their situation, and then we go out and start looking for evidence. Particularly, can you show me where you had this encounter? Without trying to be, obtrusive, take photographs, document whatever we can, whether it's a feeling or something we smell, something we see, a lot of photographs, and any kind of collection of evidence we can gather. If there's any evidence present, we try to do that too. A lot of the people I work with, Dave, are former law enforcement, or my current partner is a current law enforcement professional. So, collecting evidence in a very forensic way is important to us without contaminating it, so we can get any physical proof if it's possible. Again, it's like you said, timing. Go out and listen, take them to the area, see how they react, see, if there's anything else we can get from the story that may indicate rather they're not telling us the truth, or rather they, have really experienced something. Sometimes taking them back to the scene of the crime can be just as telling as sitting down at their kitchen table and listening to them tell the story. It could be more telling.
When someone approaches you, how do you know if they're telling the truth or not?
You really got to feel it out. Sometimes it's, when things seem too perfect, like it's either been rehearsed or they've really done their homework. We've made it easier than ever to create the perfectly hoaxed Bigfoot sighting. We really have, with all the podcasts and radio shows and television shows. We made it real easy for folks to really try to pull the wool over on us. And what really takes is, an investigator's gut and, some time to kill and some tenacity. Usually after you talk to somebody long enough, you get a good sense of who they are as a person, rather they're telling you the truth. Like I said, sometimes if it's too perfect, my flags go up. Like, I'm hearing everything I would want to hear. Why? What's the underlying factor here? Someone either did their homework, or we have hit that A+ perfect scenario, which has never happened yet. Even with folks I tend to believe have been incredibly credible, they've never hit it out of the park. So I would be very skeptical in that sense.
What's the best encounter you have had or researched?
Oh man, I tell you, the one that, will always stick with me. And actually the husband of the witness just passed away, not long ago. She's a retired nurse. She lived out in a part of Pennsylvania that was old growth forest, never had been timbered. Talking about trees, Dave, so big you could wrap your arms around, or you couldn't even put your arms around these trees, right? They live out there all year round. It's a little bit more of a resort community where it builds up in the late spring or summer and usually ends up by the end of fall. It's usually packed up. These folks lived out there year round. One morning at about 2:30, a storm had rolled in. Her dog was acting kind of fussy. As the storm had started to peter out, she takes the dog out to go to the bathroom. Dog runs, really, intent on getting outside. Dog runs to the end of her deck, and she just stops. Dog stops right in its tracks. It just looks straight out into the yard. Doesn't make any sound, doesn't bark, nothing. She's trying to figure out what the heck's going on with this dog. She walks out, goes to the end of the deck. Dog still looking intent in this area. She looks over into that area, and probably about 50 feet away from the back of her deck is a Sasquatch going through the dumpster at the end of near the driveway. The dumpster lid's open, pulling the garbage bag right out of it. And she could describe this thing in really good detail. Like the length of the hair on the arms was kind of long and mossy and kind of stringy. She had a good height estimate of it, good build. I even drew a sketch of it based on the detail she was able to provide us with. And when she talked to us, she had called us, left us a voicemail. We met up with her and her husband. And, as we're talking through the story, we're going through, their general day-to-day. And she had noticed a couple things. Strange piles of this big gloppy pancake-like crap around the house that she would always attribute to like a bear that she couldn't, explain. Now, keep in mind, her husband's blind. So her husband can't see anything, right? But generally, when you have some sort of sensory disability, one of your other senses are amplified in some way. And he could, smell, just the smell of these things, he could identify as being something not normal. And several times throughout the day when they'd be around the house, he would, if he was outside, he'd get these smells that he just couldn't identify as being, anything. He was really sickly sweet. Something had rolled in crap, but sickly sweet, like really strong odors. So couple that with the fact that she had this visual sighting, that all kind of, came together in a really good package for us to investigate. And we spent a lot of time out there, and I never felt like these folks were embellishing anything. I really, truly felt they experienced exactly what they experienced. Not long before we had just lost contact with each other, their daughter had come up to visit. And something, as her daughter was driving up the drive to their home, something had jumped across the hood of her car and startled the crap out of their daughter. And that was kind of the last time we went up to investigate before I had, I don't want to say I lost contact with the witness, but I had never had any reason to doubt anything they told us, Dave. Really sincere. They had no reason to lie to us. It's just the two of them out there most of the time. They, again, and like I said, it wasn't perfect by any means. Just through talking and going out and spending time with them, were we able to uncover that, the story and build that trust with them. It was a really, again, like I said, wasn't perfect, but it was a great, couple things that had happened, that some of the things they didn't even think about could be Bigfoot. They never reported any strange vocalizations to us, just the smell, and that she had that sighting.
Wow. How did it affect her personally?
She was weirded out by it because, she had never thought about these things before. They had lived out there for a while. They had moved. He was a school teacher in Brooklyn. They had retired to move there. They had lived in the city. They didn't, think about Sasquatch as a thing. It wasn't until she had saw something about it on TV, did she, think about it as being what she saw. Like, she had struggled with a while to report what she had seen. Like, until, she had saw the Sasquatch thing, she didn't even think about it. It's not like she had a lot of knowledge on the Sasquatch creature. She had very little knowledge when they came to us that, hey, do you think it could have been, this is what we seen? Because it sure wasn't a bear. She was adamant it wasn't a bear.
That's the biggest draw. Let's talk about that for a second. The skeptics will always say it was a bear standing up on its hind legs. Bears are noticeably different.
Sure.
Than Sasquatch. Break that down for why that argument doesn't work.
Well, again, unless there's an injured bear, and it's pretty good, you're not going to see a bear walk on its hind legs with a stride that matches a human. The gait's just not the same. And I'm sorry, the head shape of a bear is still noticeably different than the head shape of a person or a Sasquatch. Like, they talk about a conical head. You're not going to have a conical head on a bear. You're going to have a rounded head with a protruding snout, right? You're going to have ears pointing out on the top of the head, or you're not going to have that with a Sasquatch. So the only thing that I could see is when there's some sort of hunched over effect. How that bear kind of has that hump on their back, that leads up to that. That could be something sometimes I feel could potentially be a misidentification for something that hasn't really been well seen. But there's no way that a Sasquatch could be mistaken for a bear with any kind of legitimate, rational thought. It just couldn't happen. There's too many differences.
I agree with you, but for a lot of people, they panic when they see a wild animal.
Yeah,
they do.
I think you're right. But don't you think though, of all things being equal, the first thing that you would think of if you saw something in the woods that was large and furry and you didn't get a great look at it, don't you think your mind would first go to, I saw a bear?
Oh,
My
100%.
first inkling wouldn't be, oh, I saw a Sasquatch. That wouldn't be my first thought. My first thought, and most people's thought, would be, hey, I've seen a bear. I don't think it happens the opposite. I don't think, especially, you're up in Canada. People pride themselves in hunting. I'm in Pennsylvania. It's a sportsman's paradise here. People that have some sort of sighting report are going to 9 times out of 10, because there's always that chance, are going to report it as they saw a bear out in the woods today.
And you know what? I don't want to, sound negatively about it, but I mean, what else could it be? I mean, it's very rare. I mean, yes, we see it on YouTube all the time. Okay. But it's very rare that you're going to see somebody running through the forest in a Sasquatch suit.
It would be dangerous to do that, for one.
Extremely.
You're going to fall and get hurt. There's no question about that. You could be. Do you remember that documentary, Sasquatch Legend Meets Science? And they had that guy try to reenact they called the Memorial Day footage of the Sasquatch running across that open plain. The guy that attempted to do that rolled his ankle when he was attempting just to do that plain, unobstructed run across the field, rolled his ankle doing it. Like that's dangerous in itself. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't put a lot of faith into the, a misidentification of a bear or somebody out in a costume. And first of all, somebody spending time out in the woods in a Bigfoot costume is really taking their life into their hands at that point. I don't think there's too many people that would say that's a great idea of something to do. Someone, I think, inevitably would take a shot at it.
Well, I mean, if you go back to the old Star Wars days, when they were shooting Return of the Jedi in Washington State, the gentleman who was dressed up as Chewbacca was not allowed to leave the area because they were afraid that hunters in the area would think it was a Sasquatch and he would be shot.
I think just not long ago, out in one of the northern states out west, there was a guy that was hit by a vehicle who was running across the road in a Bigfoot costume. He was hit and killed.
Yeah. That was in British Columbia here.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just, folks, don't do that. It's very dumb. But again, these things, Dave, I don't know, misidentification. I find it hard to believe that people would mistake a bear for a Bigfoot. There's got to be something to warrant somebody to go out into the internet to report something they can't explain, and to do a little bit of research and to take a little boldness to report it to somebody who's going to seriously investigate it. You always have somebody that thinks this is going to be I'm going to pull a joke on somebody, or I'm going to waste somebody's time and we're going to hoax. But they tend to peter out really quick, and they don't play the long game. Very few people that want to hoax play the long game. And where they'll entertain the researchers and bring them out there and mess around, because sooner or later they know they're going to get busted. Over the years, it's happened. There's been some really famous Bigfoot hoaxes from people that have played, Ivan Marks, other people, some name I won't mention because they like to get Sue happy, but he likes Snapple. And, a couple others that have passed away where they can't defend themselves anymore. But there are some well-known hoaxers out there that played that game, and they were exposed eventually. It just takes time away from the actual research and investigation, and it's a big waster. I had folks not long ago, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, call me saying there was an accident on an ATV that involved the Sasquatch, and the local WNEP news was getting involved. And, Ray and I got out into the truck, drove out to the area. The guy wouldn't answer the cell phone call, wouldn't meet us. Nothing happened. We knew it was probably a hoax, but we still went out after it anyhow, just to see if we could get an idea of what the place was. And that guy never called us back. As soon as he realized we were going to come out to the area and we were taking it, he just, clammed up and never got back in touch with us again.
It's funny how that works sometimes. Let's get to some audience questions here. We got about 4.5 minutes. Start off with Emmy here. She says, I think the government has a body and they are not talking. What's your thoughts on that, Sean?
100% agree. You think about the implication of, proving a Sasquatch exists. How does that affect the natural gas fracking industry? How does it, affect the lumber industry? It affects a lot of business. What's the religious implications? I think it's a lot bigger of a problem. How do we have to now start reporting these people in missing parks? So it affects a lot of things that have to really be thought out. But I do think they know something. I think they've had a body. I think they've had several, and I have no way of proving it, but I think they do.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy the whole Smithsonian thing.
Yeah,
I think they probably do have a body, but what for? I don't know. I don't think it's anything crass like trying to build super soldiers or anything along those lines. I'm just not convinced of that, but do you see the government as, we know they're hiding UFOs. We know they're hiding aliens. Okay. That's coming out very, very quickly. Why hide Sasquatch?
Well, again, like I said, there's a lot of implications to business. Is it an endangered species? Do we have to then follow the Endangered Species Acts? Does it take large tracts of wilderness away? Do we have to step boundaries? Like, it could be a real problematic piece for a logistical standpoint and legal standpoint. But also, what if it is more extraterrestrial than terrestrial? And then that goes right into the whole UFO disclosure conversation too. Like, do those things have to be separate? I don't know.
I was talking to someone today about, the whole UFOs and aliens thing. And this person, I won't mention his name because he is highly involved. And he's all convinced that, we have contact with different species. Some that are alive. We have the bodies that are dead that are in biodomes in universities and laboratories to be tested. He thinks, he believes that in one crash site that they found over 36 bodies, and here we're hoping for just one Sasquatch body. I mean, it would make sense.
What if there is more than one Sasquatch? And what if all these things people have seen aren't just one type? What if there's several different types? It would explain the variations in sightings too, right?
I think the variations is a great conversation because if you look down at up here where I am in the Pacific Northwest, they're around that 10-foot mark. You hear being bigger than 10 foot the more northern you go towards Alaska, but they get a lot smaller when they tend to head down towards the bayous of Louisiana and the Texas area where, a big one is 7 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true on that, Dave. The regional varieties and some of the aggressiveness too, right? They tend to be a little bit more aggressive as they get smaller. It's like Napoleon syndrome for cryptids.
I know, but if you're battling cottonmouths and and alligators and alligator gar and everything like that, I mean, look, you're going to be pissed off.
Absolutely. And that humidity, man, the humidity.
Yeah. Never mind.
Get you every time.
Bugs and all that kind of crap out there. Jesus, it sounds terrible. I'd be mad too. I'm mad just thinking about it, man. I'm mad just thinking about it. When we come back from the break, we are going to go and ask more questions from our audience for Sean Forker. And then we're going to find out, maybe we'll have some fun with Sean. Maybe we'll figure out, we'll throw him on the spot, the top 3 do's and don'ts of Sasquatch hunting. Yeah, let's try that. Sean, that sounds like fun.
It sounds like a game plan, Dave.
Yep, sounds like a game plan. But yeah, I appreciate you coming here, Sean, tonight. We got you for another 30 minutes on Spaced Out Radio, and it's going to be a busy next 30 minutes here on the Mighty SOR. So stay tuned, everybody, because we got a lot more show coming on up. When we return, Sasquatch Talk, then Hour 3, as Steve Stockton from Among the Missing, Shane Michael Crisp with the Cryptid Report, Dave 101 Night, the weird news of the week. It's a busy one on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear, my friend.
I love this.
Oh, man, we're having a great time tonight. Great time tonight.
You're getting me out of that comfort zone, Dave, into the, what do we call that? The woo. Well, kind of woo. I guess it's not really woo, though. It's just a different way. I think woo, I think of the mind speak and stuff. That's a little bit more woo. I think this is a alternative perspective.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. We really don't.
Give me 1 second here. Little Timmy Senor, my UFO report guy, called in. It's kind of weird. He's sitting in my old hometown right now.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Little Timmy Senor, I got you at the microphone here so the audience can hear you. You can say hi.
Hello, everyone. I'm in the back of a cab on my way to the hotel, and Canada is fantastic.
Where did you go eat?
Super interesting.
Where did you go eat?
I haven't eaten all day. No food for 10.
So where did you guys go?
Dude, I literally got off the plane. We got all of our gear, which took like an hour, and then got to the hotel, stowed it, and I just ran out to run a quick errand. As soon as I get back, we're gonna go over all of our gear and tech and be ready to get up at 5:30, hang out with Merle, and then drive up to see you and get going.
Nice. Looking forward to it, my man. Yeah. I hope you guys are up here by noon the latest. So yeah, we're gonna leave at 5:30. He's gonna pick us up at 6, and so that should be plenty of time. What is it, 5 hours? Yeah, about 5 hours. You're gonna hit some road construction and then on the highway, and then Merle will show off where he's investigated, and then you kind of go from there. Excellent. Well, if we need to get up earlier, I'm 100% fine with that. So text Merle if you want us to get there sooner, because he can just pick us up at 4:30 if you want. I'm fine with it. Well, he was telling me he was picking you up at 6. And that's fine. So unfortunately, one of our bags that has like the boom mics and the light stand is still in San Francisco. So nice. We're gonna have to somehow grab that first thing in the morning before we leave Abbotsford. Oh, is it flying in now? Yes, exactly correct. So it should be here in the morning. So we'll grab that last bag and then roll out to you. Okay. Well, keep me in touch. I got to get back on the air here, little Timmy Senor. Right on, everyone. Great to hear, that you're on there, Dave. Miss you guys. Talk to you soon. All right. Talk soon. All right. Talk soon. Bye-bye. Little Timmy Senor in Canada. Look at that. Jeremy Jones, how you doing? Roger G, welcome back. Who else is here? Fermi's Paradox 1. Welcome back. No, Arrow didn't say you got stoned. He said they stowed. 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 Too bad you weren't coming, Sean Forker.
It'd be a blast, Dave.
Yeah. You got to make your way up here. Catherine, I was going to ask your question next. Don't go to sleep just yet, Mama Catherine. Your question's coming up here quick. Asimov, how you doing? All right. Thank you tonight to Charles, W. Decker ×3, Deb, and Mike for the great super chats. If you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell, as we are here 7 days a week. And of course, you do your shopping at spacedoutradio.com. Grab some swag and enjoy wearing your woo clothes. Woo clothes. Yeah. Your woo stuff. Here we go, everyone. Sit back, relax. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to you, if you have missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Final time tonight, we have Sean Forker, Fortean researcher of everything unknown. And here we are. Sean, thank you so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate you taking the time, man.
It's always my pleasure to be with you, Dave.
I want to get to Mama Catherine's question here. We kind of answered it during the break, but I want to get it out to the public. Is there a national site to really report sightings of Bigfoot?
Sure. I mean, one of the things I say is rather I can investigate it or not, I'll take your report, and I work with credible researchers everywhere that could get out to you and take your sighting. So yeah, there's websites like the BFRO, but you can go to my website, sasquatchexperience.com, and report your sighting. And if I can't get there, I'll be in touch with somebody that I respect and, have faith in that could get out to you and investigate your claim in a way that would make me proud.
What do you think of, I'm going to put you on the spot here. What about a group like the BFRO? When you hear stories that their statistics are not accurate, all because they are editing their reports.
Yeah. I mean, that's, editorial, purviews at the discretion of whoever's running the organization. I think it's the most well-known organization in Bigfoot, but there's also a lot of reports that they have that aren't in databases from people that I know that are BFRO members. There's a whole secondary database of sighting reports that haven't been vetted or haven't made it onto the website. So you're only seeing what they want you to see and things that are just been sitting waiting to be investigated because nobody's gone out to do it. So, what's in those unknown sighting reports that haven't been vetted yet, I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, I'm always cautious, as we all should be with any one organization that has all the editorial power within one person, and there's no committee to kind of help vet that or flesh that out a little bit. That would be a criticism I have for it. Like, who decides what gets posted and what doesn't, and what happens to the stuff that doesn't? Does it stay in the database or does it get the delete button?
Very true. And it's disappointing if it does get the delete button, because I don't care what it said on that story. If one of your investigators, whether it's MUFON or whether it's BFRO, if that report comes in, you don't edit that report. That's not your position to edit that report to make yourselves look more scientific.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that, Dave. And it's dangerous. It's a dangerous precedence to set.
Extremely. Communist. That's what it is. It's communist.
Yeah, edited to fit a narrative, right? Like, we don't do that. The only time we ever edit a report is if it needs a little grammatical cleanup. Other than that, they are as they're received. And even we get cautious about that too, because you put one comma in the wrong spot, changes the whole context of the meaning.
Oh, you got that right. Have you ever covered any stories or encounters where people have had not only sightings but UFO or paranormal encounters at the same time?
Yeah, we could do a whole show on this topic, Dave, alone. But there was an area I investigated in 2009 to probably 2010 before I had to recuse myself from the case. There was an area in Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. We ended up calling it Area 516 because it was the birthday of my research partner at the time. And actually, Alex Petikoff from Small Town Monster had filmed a UFO in that area. He's actually got a UFO on video from this place. I was not with him the night they got that footage, but I had my own experiences out in that way with, again, strange light phenomena. But these folks that live, it's almost a family. They live in this, surrounding area, this large acreage of land. Different members of the family all had their own experiences, and people had seen UFOs. People had, unexplained vocalizations. We had experienced unexplained vocalizations there. We had experienced, like I said, the light phenomena. We had experienced, several people had creature sightings there. Like, you name it, this place, it was really like its own special, unique area. Hence, I guess why we called it Area 516, because it was so active with many different phenomena. I ended up recusing myself from the case because, personal reasons. I don't want to, spill people's tea. That's not my tea to spill. It just became not a great environment to collectively research in. But to me, that doesn't take away from the fact that there was some stuff happening there. And it's a shame it couldn't all work out where we could keep it. But again, Alex Petikoff, if you folks search Alex Petikoff in YouTube, I think it might be out there. It might even be on one of the Small Town Monsters documentaries. It's a UFO footage he took from that place on camera footage.
That's wonderful. Do you think then overall in covering cases like that, that the phenomena is all tied together? Or do you think it's happenstance?
Well, again, it's something that I've been scratching my head with and struggling with for at least the last 10 years. In my heart of hearts, I want this to be flesh and blood because that makes me feel comfortable. But again, getting outside that comfort zone, there are things that you can't deny. The unexplained light phenomena that happens more than once, it's happened more than twice, is more than a coincidence in my mind, Dave. There has to be something to it. I guess I'll say that to you. There has to be a lot more to this than meets the eye, whatever it is. I mean, I guess you could even compromise, Dave, and say if it's extraterrestrial, it's still, potentially flesh and blood. It's just flesh and blood with abilities we don't have. So there's always that compromise I'm trying to look for. But definitely when you go through all this research and if you experience these things and have seen all the different types of reports and evidence that I've seen, it's hard to dispel that there's something going on that's a little bit more than what we can comprehend or we're willing to comprehend at this point.
And that's the high strangeness of it all.
Yeah, very.
That's where we can't figure out, right from left and up from down when it comes to this, because there is no evidence tying them together. It just happens.
No. We use that term evidence very loosely, right? Like you start trying to connect the dots. But again, evidence is very, very weak, what we would consider evidence in a court of law. But, happenstance, to me, there's just too much to it to be more than a coincidence. There is. I can comfortably say that. What it is, I don't know. But all I know is that these phenomena are appearing in conjunction far more often than what they used to be reported. And I can't just sit here and think it's just a Pennsylvania thing. I can't.
No, definitely not. Sean, let's get to another question from our audience here. Let's go to Brown Dwarf, who's asking, Sean, have you ever looked into the Chestnut Ridge incidents, being from Pennsylvania, the rash of Bigfoot and UFO sightings?
Yep, been to the Chestnut Ridge many times. I don't consider myself an active researcher or I have a claim there, but I've been a special guest star out there enough to be comfortable to know if anybody gets a chance. Not that I like to promote things out there, Dave. Small Town Monsters, there's a YouTube series I was part of called Sasquatch Unearthed Mysteries of the Ridge. There's like I think 8 episodes of the work myself and members of the PA Bigfoot Society and other independent researchers did, chronicling the activities that have happened out on the Chestnut Ridge. And it's an interesting place. The other things we're becoming familiar with is underground caverns, and perhaps these underground caverns are an unseen highway for these beings to use to get from point A to point B. And just different things. Again, strange light phenomena. It just there's a lot that happens out on the ridge. They call it kind of the twilight zone of PA. A lot of things out there that don't make sense, but they happen.
Very true. Very true. What kind of patterns have you noticed with this creature?
Well, I don't know if you can say there's patterns anymore. We used to think this migration thing was real, where you would have more sighting reports at one time of year than another. That means they had to be moving from one place to another. But the reality is the data, you could skew that data to fit your narrative if you want to, but it doesn't change the fact that sighting reports happen all year round. And I don't think they happen any less frequently in the winter than they do the summer or the spring. It just, again, we have to ask ourselves one question, Dave. Do sighting reports happen less? Because what's the one element that it takes to have a sighting report? The person. Somebody has to see it. We just happen to be out in the woods less in the wintertime than we do in the summer. Does it change the frequency of these things being around? I don't think so one bit. So where we could used to say, yes, we would see these patterns, the patterns are just identifiable by human activity, and that's skewed based upon our own movement.
What about sleeping? Are they living in caves? Are they living in dugout caverns, in old tunnels? Where do you think they are?
We don't really have an answer for that. I know there have been nests that have been found up in the Pacific Northwest. We've heard some grass huts or some nesting areas in Ohio, potentially some in Pennsylvania. I would believe that they would be a creature of opportunity. So they would use old coal mines, or they would use caverns, abandoned caverns, to use for sleep. Anything that keeps them out of, plain sight or out of potential danger, and gives them shelter from the elements when necessary. So I think that would be a very good thing, a logical assumption we could make, that would want to use it for movement. And again, like I said, we were just talking about the Chestnut Ridge, the Laurel Highlands area, and the cave system under there. Who knows where you're going to end up going into one of those. The caves aren't exactly safe to explore. I'm sure they're not very well charted.
So do you think then that this is where I get confused of what the creature is, because there will be people out there saying, well, maybe it steps into a different dimension, or maybe it steps into a portal or something and goes somewhere else. I don't see that happening. This is where I think this creature is probably an underground creature, which is why it could disappear so fast. Like I said, I'm still not sure what it is. I still lean towards the woo side of everything, but I do believe that there is something, at least earthly, if we could use that term,
sure,
about it. What makes this creature earthly to you?
Well, as Butch used to say, Butch Wachowski, it has to have trash, right? It has to leave residue of its existence somewhere. And that's what Butch was always like. We got to find its garbage. We got to find Bigfoot's trash. But, again, it leaves physical footprints. It leaves hair. It leaves scat. That all indicates something physical from my perspective. But, is it a dimensional hopper? I don't know. And I wouldn't know how to comprehend that, because I don't know the technology it would take to make that work. I guess that, again, once again, limited by my own imagination on those things, it would be, it'd be a crapshoot. to guess. But again, I think we are dealing with something, even to say it's spiritual, Dave, or woo, would still kind of be negated by the fact that it does leave a physical presence. So when it materializes in our world, is it bound by the rules of our world? And if so, how does it unbend those rules for it to get back to where it's from?
Do you believe then, or let me rephrase that. I got another question that's way better. Have you ever had encounters with female Sasquatch and their children?
Have I? No. Have I heard of? I don't know if I've ever taken a case where I haven't read it in a book that's been of a juvenile or a female Sasquatch, to be honest. I don't know if I've ever received one that I couldn't say was skewed from something I've read somewhere. I've not had one reported directly to me, which is kind of interesting, don't you think? But outside of the world of primates, when they send sentinels out, they're usually male, right?
Have you ever been surrounded by the sentinels?
I feel when we were up in the Clearfield County, you know, they always say you might see one, but there's always more than one. When Dustin, myself, and Ray were up there and we were being circled, I definitely felt like there was the potential for more than one to be there.
The sentinels, explain to people what those are.
Well, I use the term sentinels, but that would be kind of like we talked about, you know, the people you send out for recon to keep an eye on what's going on in the perimeter of your zone, you know, keeping watch, keeping guard of what's going on. They tend to do that sort of in primate communities. You know, you have the, you know, alpha, and then you have the other apes that are, you know, that kind of keep, you know, to the perimeter. And a lot of times the women and the children are kept in a safe spot. I wouldn't think that, you know, we do it in our own communities. They do it in tribes. You know, we tend to keep our women and children safe. And that's probably why we don't have a lot of encounters with female or young Sasquatch, as opposed to the plethora of sightings we get of what are usually large males.
Yeah, you know, I often wonder about that and whether or not it's something that we should be concerned with.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely would be, they would be more aggressive if they're protecting their young, or if they're even trying to protect something.
Well, where we're planning on filming this weekend, that's what happened to us. Is we had two, and they pushed us towards the only direction that was out, and it was right in between them. Now, I think if we would have went back in a certain way, I think the third one would have appeared, because, you know, the word is they triangulate you.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that before. Absolutely. I've heard that. Like, again, what I was saying to you, like, I've heard that usually there's more than one, you know, from folks that have those more kind of uncomfortable encounters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sean, we got about 5.5 minutes, and we've covered so much of this topic tonight with you. You know, what is your top 3 do's and don'ts for Sasquatch and investigating?
Well, number one rule I use for any kind of outdoor activities is don't ever go by yourself. Never go alone for safety or whatnot. There's, you know, one of our research areas, they just, you know, caught an escaped convict in. He left, escaped a jail up in New York State and ended up in one of our frequent research areas in Northwest PA. So there's real danger out there to people saying Sasquatch, right? So safety in numbers, always be more than one. 2, like, leave the technology at home. You rely on much of your natural senses as you can. You know, you're going to be less distracted. You're going to be more in tune with what's going on. And then my third do is document everything, no matter how silly it seems. whether it's a temperature change or how you feel, or document it. Early on in this, I kept a journal at the urging of my research partner, Ernie. I was really glad I did. It got us thinking about things like we were recording even the moon phase, Dave. Like, did these things, people, you'll say, oh, Bigfoot's really active during a full moon. Why? That makes absolutely no sense. If you're a creature that's dependent on stealth, you'd want to go during a new moon when there is an absence of light. So again, we let a bias show that, because it's cool and spooky that a full moon's out, it has to be, Bigfoot has no, that to me, that makes no sense. And there's nothing in the data that says that. We would have more activity around the end of the moon phase into the new moon than we ever did on full moon nights. So I guess my top three, when you think of those do's and don'ts, I guess the other last part is, which is we're going more than three, maybe into a fourth, is vocalization. Used to be a big thing, going out there call blasting and making noise, but we don't know what we're sending out there. We have no idea what that means in their language. So we could be, it could be a mating call. It could be a warning call. We don't know, but we use it again because sometimes it gets a response. And it's a real cool thing to do on TV, but does it really net any results in the long term? I don't know.
Well, you can bring a drum set out.
I've heard. I've heard like a little, little tambourine or drums. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a howling monkey or a howling scream out there. Something. Again, I've heard drumming before as a way to elicit contact. So who knows? Does that go into more of a First Nations belief, Dave, or in the spiritual side of it? I don't know. We just don't have enough information. Still, we've been looking at this for 60, 70 years. In a scientific study, it's really not that long.
Very true. Very true. Okay, so your bottom three, 2 minutes to go. What would you incur? What's the most important part of your bottom three?
The bottom three, the most important part, again, just I'm not a firearm person, Dave. I don't carry a firearm with me just because I don't feel like I need it. I do always have some protection on me, but it's usually not a firearm. But it's make sure you know what you got when you go out. Make sure if it's any kind of safety equipment or firearm, the person knows what the hell they're doing, then how to use it. So you don't end up a victim of some sort of accidental crime. And put your own and whatever you take in, take back out. That's just a public safety message in general. But yeah, gifting, all that stuff's great. Make sure you're actually gifting and just not leaving garbage behind.
A gifting site still hasn't been touched.
Gifting is interesting, isn't it? Like I've got some friends, man, that again, not something I considered early on. I thought it was part of that woo mentality, but my friends, somebody that, in fact, I'll get you their names when we go off here, Dave, that you want to get in contact with, because they're doing some interesting things in Sasquatch research that have never been done before. And it's blowing my mind in terms of different techniques they're trying. Gifting's one of them, but other forms of contact that's just literally out of this world. Like I'd never in a million years would entertain it myself.
Love it. 30 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find your information.
Well, you can go to SasquatchExperience.com. It's a podcast, but it's also a site where we take research sightings. Also, we have another one we're starting. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek, the name of it, but semiprosquatchers.org. Semiprosquatchers.org. You can go ahead and report your sightings there. We get them. And we'll, like I said, if we can't physically get out there, we work with people all over the place that can get to you. And we'll take it seriously and keep you confidential.
Love it. Sean Forker, thanks for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Again, it's always great to have you on. Coming up next, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing joins us. Then Shane Michael Crisp with the Cryptid Report, continuing right after this on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. Yeah, if you could send me those names privately,
Oh,
because
yeah.
we still are live on YouTube, that would be wonderful.
I'll send them to you right now, man. My brain kind of petered out there at the end. I'm sorry.
That's all right. What a great show, buddy. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Anything for you. You know that.
I appreciate you, my man. Appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
You betcha. Later, brother.
Bye-bye. Sean Forker, everybody. I'll be right back. Check on my wasps. Okay, perfect. We are back. I want to say a big thank you to W. Decker with a hat trick of super chats tonight. Deb, Mike, and Charles, thank you so much for the love and support. It really helps out what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And I also want to say a big thank you to everybody who's hit subscribe, rang that bell here. It's great to have you all supporting the show. It helps with our algorithms if you give us a thumbs up, thumbs down as well. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Demotic. Demotic is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time of the night where we ask Steve Stockton from Among the Missing on YouTube to come on in and join us with another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Louise Chaput was a 52-year-old psychologist from Sherbrooke, Quebec, Canada, with an unrivaled passion for hiking. On November 15, 2001, Louise left her home and set off on a solo 3+ hour journey by car to Mount Washington in the presidential range of New Hampshire's White Mountains. She planned a short hike on the Lost Pond Trail across the street from the lodge where she would stay. Louise never returned and was reported missing. Sadly, her body was discovered with multiple stab wounds on Thanksgiving Day, and her death was ruled a homicide. The motive remains unknown, and the perpetrator has yet to be identified. In 2008, 24-year-old Meredith Emerson was murdered by Gary Michael Hilton, a 61-year-old drifter, while hiking on Blood Mountain in Georgia. Hilton initially walked with Meredith and her dog, but fell behind due to her fast pace. Meredith re-encountered Hilton on her way down the mountain, where he attacked her with a knife and a baton. Despite her training in martial arts, Hilton overpowered and kidnapped her, keeping her captive for 3 days before ultimately killing her with a car jack handle. Hilton, who was mentally unstable and believed to be a sociopath, confessed to targeting Meredith because she was a woman. Hilton was later charged with 3 additional murders and sentenced to life in prison. In 2011, a group of hikers found 30-year-old Scott Lilly deceased near the Cow Camp Gap shelter on the AT. Scott, a SOBO or southbound hiker, started his journey in Maryland and was headed toward Springer Mountain. He was last seen on July 31st after climbing the Priest in Nelson County. Scott's cause of death was determined to be asphyxia by suffocation, and his belongings were missing. The FBI has not confirmed if robbery was indeed the motive for the crime, and Scott's murder remains unsolved. Then, in 2019, 43-year-old Army veteran Ronald Sanchez Jr. was murdered by James Lewis Jordan. Ronald was camping with 3 other hikers in Wythe County, Virginia, when they encountered Jordan, who was behaving erratically and threatening to burn their tents. When they attempted to leave, Jordan attacked him, killing Ronald and injuring another hiker. Jordan was found not guilty by reason of insanity and will not be released until the court determines that he will not create a, quote, substantial risk of injury, end quote, to anyone else. And then we have an almost deadly case. In 2008, while camping near the Wapiti shelter, fishermen Scott Johnson and Sean Farmer encountered Randall Smith, who introduced himself as Ricky Williams. Unaware that Smith was the same person who had murdered Robert Mountford Jr. and Laura Susan Ramsey in 1981, Scott and Sean invited him to join them for dinner. After sharing a meal and conversing for hours, Smith lingered even though he claimed his camp was far away. Around 8:30 p.m., Smith suddenly opened fire on Scott and Sean as they prepared to part ways. Remarkably, both men were wounded but managed to escape together and survive. Smith, who was later identified as the assailant, died in prison. The motive for the attack remains unsolved.
And thank you, Steve Stockton, for another great insight into some spooky characters out there that are among the missing. Some of them found, some of them not. Sad stories nonetheless. But if you want more just like that, head on over to youtube.com/Among the Missing and make sure you hit subscribe on Steve's channel. From the missing to the mountains, looking for everything from Sasquatch to Dogman, Shane Michael Crisp is here with the Cryptid Report. And Shane Michael Crisp, it's always good to have you here to join us on these short nights of the Cryptid Report. How you been doing?
Doing great, brother. Thanks for having me. How's your week been so far? I mean, I know you went Sasquatch and looking for, our bipedal hairy friends in the north. Any luck?
Last week, no, and I'll tell you why. The forest has nothing, or the forest was actually filled with forest fire smoke.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, there wasn't anything out, and I don't blame the animals for, huddling on down because we were only there. Like usually we're out there for 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours, and we were out there like an hour and a half because the smoke was just so thick. And thank goodness we had a couple of days of nighttime rain that took it all away, which was nice. But, it doesn't do much when, everything looks foggy and it's not foggy because you got that smell that goes along with it.
Exactly.
Speaking of smells, I'm curious to ask you about, any type of cryptid out there, whether it's Sasquatch or your favorite Dogman. I've never had the Sasquatch odor or the cryptid odor that many people have claimed. I've seen 3 Sasquatch now, and I know I've been around them. Never any odor. What is the odor all about?
That's a really good question. I've listened to multiple reports, excuse me, but Sasquatch seem to have more of the musky smell, almost like a skunk or like an H2S, like gassy smell, to where the Dogmen have more of the wet dog, dead carcass, dead meat smell to them. I don't know if that's just their environment, and maybe it's a natural defense mechanism. There's a lot of different theories on that, but I mean, there's been people that have seen Dogmen that are very well groomed and Sasquatch that are very well groomed. I mean, is it a certain thing that they use to maybe attract other Sasquatch or Dogmen? I mean, it's really good theory though, but there is definitely odors to both of them that have been reported.
Do you think the odors that people claim during their reports maybe has something to do with the fact that maybe this creature secretes a pheromone or a stench, much like a skunk does?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, so if that's possible, could it be a defense mechanism?
I definitely agree that it could be a defense mechanism or like a warning, kind of like, hey, I'm in the area, my presence. I mean, obviously they're apex predators, so that would be definitely the first sign. You know, when you're out there looking in the woods, when the woods go silent, when the insects stop, you know, making noises, the birds stop chirping, and then after the quiet is when I've heard on a few reports is when the smells kick in. So is that just meaning that, hey, they're there, there's something big, very large that obviously has an odor to it in the area?
Beth wants to know, do you think dogmen are created hybrids, or are they from another dimension, universe? What do you think
Well, that's a
they
good
are?
question, Beth. I keep open mind to all different theories. I don't say, hey, it's flesh and blood or they're interdimensional. We really don't know. We don't have enough evidence. I'm more on the evidence side. I'd rather collect more data because all we really have right now is just theories and eyewitness accounts. And I believe right now in the dogman community, we're in our infancy with whether it just be blurry photos. I mean, it's not concrete evidence. A photo can say 1,000 words, but there is a theory that there are fallen Nephilim or they've been here since day one. They're interdimensional. There's definitely all those theories. You can't discredit anybody or any theory. I mean, there's ones that are really far out there, but you just, like I've said before, you just have to archive it until you get multiple reports to where it starts making a pattern. And then that's when you can pull it back out and say, hey, there's definitely an interdimensional side to these things.
Well, there's another interesting question that you just brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's about the blurriness of photos. There are many people out there, and I'm one of them, where I don't tend to believe that Sasquatch or any type of cryptid, whether it's little people, gnomes, gargoyles, forest dwellers, dogman, I tend to believe that they have something in their ability to make themselves look blurry. We're not all bad photographers or videographers. We're not all bad when it comes to panicking to get our phone in order to hit record. You know, yes, we may be a little bit shaky, but today's phones and today's GoPros, you know, they help alleviate a lot of that blurriness from movement. Yet somehow any type of quality footage tends to be blurry. What do you think's going on there?
Well, a couple of different theories I've heard of, because the photos are what made me a believer in this whole cryptid field. People say if you got to put a circle on it, throw it out. You got the negative negative naysayers. They'll say, oh, it's you're shooting through a potato. Like you said, technology, it's 2023. We have the clearest image. We can take pictures of distant galaxies hundreds of million light years away, but yet you can't get a clear photo of a Sasquatch on camera. But like you said, Dave, I believe in the electromagnetic field theory that they can manipulate the electromagnetic fields around them. And then maybe they're able to bend certain frequencies or light spectrums. I've heard a couple of that to why you get the blurry photos. I mean, the clearest footage of a Sasquatch, in my personal opinion, is the Patterson-Gimlin film, shot on 8mm, and it's still really distorted looking, but it's clearly something's walking. Dogman, that's the same thing. I just dealt with a gentleman this morning saying, hey, this is a photo of a dogman, claiming it was a dogman. But then again, it was super blurry, and other people were started attacking this individual. He was out there in the woods, but I had to tell people, hey, you can't discredit the guy. I mean, at least he's out in the field trying to do something. But the theory is, can these things manipulate the electromagnetic field? There's been crews that have gone out with full charge on their phones, cameras, go to use it, and 20 minutes later, their batteries are dead. So is it that these cryptids are producing some type of frequency or energy that can really just makes all electronics just die out really quick? I really don't know.
Yeah, and the battery thing, I had forgotten about that. You know, the idea that these batteries, you know, you could put a brand new set of Duracells in, you know, and all of a sudden 15 minutes later, they're gone, and there's no reason for them to be dead.
Yeah,
None
exactly.
whatsoever.
You know, one good theory, Dave, I did hear, and I won't take up too much of the time, but is that during the summertime when people go out, if they live in like the southern states, that the humidity has caused them to just go obsolete. I don't know how true that is because I do have a buddy that lives in Kentucky, and he was one of these people that told me about going out with a full charge, and 10-15 minutes later, both batteries completely gone. So, and then he told me he thinks it could have been the community, but it could have been the dogman or the Sasquatch in the area in the Daniel Boone.
Could very well be. Could very well be. The idea, though, that these creatures have some sort of infrasound. We know infrasound is used by whales. It's used by bigger, larger cats like tigers and lions. Elephants use it. This isn't out of the ordinary for nature's animals to be using this infrasound in order to biolocate prey or in order to communicate. Are you a big believer that the Sasquatch and Dogman have this infrasound ability, maybe to not only communicate, but to protect themselves from what they could feel as danger?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I definitely believe that because there's so many different reports where people say, oh, there's so many similarities with the infrasound. Some people say it could just be, it's their sixth sense telling them, hey, you need to just get out. But there's a lot of reports also where people start feeling sick after witnessing or encountering a dogman or a Sasquatch. So is it a defense mechanism, or are they using it to pretty much say, hey, get out of the area as before they actually do attack?
I don't know. I mean, how often are they attacking though?
That is true. I want to say it's very minimal. It's just like a wild animal. That's how I try to think of it. When you get too close or infringe on their territory, that's when they're going to start giving you a sign saying, hey, you're getting too close. And then if you do get too close, well, this might be dinner,
Have you heard any reports over the time you've been in this where people have been chased out of a forest or chased out of a graveyard or even chased out of their own yard by a dogman or a Bigfoot?
Good question you asked that. I was just interviewing a gentleman tonight from Northern California when he was 14 years old. Him and a group of, there was 7 of them, their camp counselor and 6 other younger teenagers were all out on a boat down in the Sierra Nevada mountain range. And when they've got to this certain little island, to kind of sum it up, that the counselor come running out of the woods, and then within 50 feet of them, they were bluff charged by a dogman that he described as very beautiful, 8 to 9 feet tall, brown, and I want to say that it was gray in fur. It had the human-like leg structure, but long, bushy tail, the way he described it. And it just instilled the fear into him. But he said it didn't feel like it was being threatening, but that they infringed too close to its territory, and that the camp counselor, him running out because I think they crept too far in. But he said that when they went back to camp, everyone laughed at him and didn't believe all 7 of the people that had seen it. But he said that he never felt fear whatsoever. He just said that it looked at us and it showed its dominance, but we had gotten too close, so he believes that it was just getting him out of the area. So I've really found that fascinating.
Yeah. Are there any other signals you've learned of that maybe these creatures use to get us out of certain areas?
Well, let's just use the Sasquatch, for example. Everyone thinks that the tree knocks are actual tree knocks. Me personally, reading a lot on the Sasquatch, I don't think that's them really doing tree knocks with like a stick hitting a tree or a log. I think it's more that they're using their vocals, that they're making those sounds with their mouth. I've heard that from multiple Sasquatch researchers. Like I said, I'm not an avid Sasquatch investigator or researcher. I've read upon it though, and I'm thinking that's pretty interesting. That's maybe a defense mechanism that they're using, saying, hey, these people are getting too close. And that's when you start, when they go to the greater depths, whether it's the tree knocks or the clicking sounds, to where they start throwing rocks, multiple incidents where they start throwing rocks at people. So that's one thing I definitely, it seems like the closer you get, the more serious their levels of security are going up,
I've only ever had one rock thrown at us.
Really? Out of all the years you've been
only
investigating Sasquatch?
Yeah, and it was at our original gifting site, and we were bored as hell. And my buddy Mike and I were just kind of looking. We went down to our gifting site. Nothing had moved again. We get back up to our vehicle. We're kind of looking around, trying to see if there's any tracks around. And all of a sudden, right in front of my truck, you hear this cling cling from rock hitting rock. And we're like, did you just hear that? And he's like, yep. We couldn't find the rock. Couldn't do that. No, we weren't lucky enough for that. But yeah, we don't even know the direction it came.
Just out of the blue. We had one rock thrown at you.
One rock.
Wow.
That's it.
But hey, at least that theory can almost fit with what you've witnessed it. So, I mean, the rock throwing is very Sasquatch-like.
True. I would just like to see, I've seen videos of these guys, they're walking through the forest and like every like 30 seconds, there's a rock thrown at them.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine if these creatures do know how to throw rocks as a safety measure,
mm-hmm.
how accurate they would be? Think about it for a second. You take a young child or even somebody who's out of shape,
mm-hmm.
and you teach them to throw. Within a week or two, they're hitting your glove. If you throw every day, let's say you throw 100 balls a day, all right, even 50. By the end of that 50, their accuracy improves like that.
Tremendously.
And I just can't see where I think Sasquatch has the full control to be able to put these rocks just in front of you or just behind you. Because if they really wanted to hit you, I think they would.
Oh, yeah. Definitely knock you out. And I've heard a couple reports in the last week. I know I've been trying to really look for a cryptid sighting for you, Dave, on these weekly stuff. I don't really come across a whole lot of anything, but with the whole rock throwing, I did read a report I want to say it was last Friday morning, that this couple was walking, but they felt like they were being surrounded. I think it was, I want to say it was in West Virginia. They were walking along a trail, and they felt like there was 2 or 3 things surrounding them, but they were throwing rocks at them. But they think that when they got a glimpse of something, it looked small. Like it was not like a what do you call it? A little people, but like a juvenile Sasquatch. Maybe you think that's more juvenile tactics to throw rocks just to intimidate the people to get them out of the area. Because I think if a larger 9 to 10 foot Sasquatch throwing a little rock like that, they're going to be wanting to throw something a little bigger, bigger rock.
Could very well. There's a story out in the Harrison area from a few years ago where there's a really nice pool, and we call it the coho pool for coho salmon.
Mm-hmm.
And right on you got the one side you can fish on, the next side there's a rock wall that's about 150 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently a number of years ago, there were boulders not being rolled off that hill, but being thrown through the air off of that hill into the water below.
Mm-hmm.
And it scared the fishermen away,
Wow.
but 20 seconds, do me a favor, tell everybody where they can find West Coast Dogman.
You can find us on YouTube or on Facebook, or you can also find me over at the North American Dogman Project. I'm under Jody Cook. I'm running the Region 1 with the 11 states in the West. You can find me on Facebook over there as well.
Always a pleasure to have you here, Shane Michael Crisp, on the abbreviated version of the Cryptid Report. We'll talk to you next week, my man.
Thanks, brother. Have a good evening. Thanks, guys.
Coming up next, it's Dave 101 night. Great. We're getting more UFO hearings. Hoorah! Yeah, you'll know my feelings next on Spaced Out Radio. And Dave is clear. How we all doing? You having fun yet? I'm having fun. Been a good night. been a very good night. I'm not going to lie. I'm really excited that the boys are coming up. I'm very excited. Pumpkin seeds. You're what a jerk move. What a jerk move. It's because I wear an orange shirt. There's no black stripes going down the sides of it. Felipe, how are you, my man? Hello, Skip to Maloo. I thought your colors were burgundy, the Hokies. Oh, it is burnt orange. And Chicago maroon. You and Science Bob would get along. You're both Virginia Tech. No Despair to Bear from Kentucky. Derek, I have got it before. I actually had that. Was it last night or the night before last? Thank you tonight to Big Tex, Blue Cruise, Charles, Mike, W. Decker ×3, and Deb for the amazing super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. And we're going to have some new features coming up very, very soon, including the new Space Travelers Club that'll be coming on up. And we will chat with you in just a second here. Here we go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you miss most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time of the night, that time of the week, where I say, get off my lawn. It's a Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
Well, aren't we lucky? Aren't we just in dreamboat land when it comes to UFOs? Because here we are going into the fourth set of hearings regarding unidentified anomalous phenomena. Yes, this time it is Congressman Tim Burchett finally getting his way, where him and his team are going to sit down and they are going to get to the bottom of UFOs. Now, I give credit a lot to Tim Burchett. I may not agree with his politics. I may not agree with the person. But when it comes to UFOs, he has been a real champion of true disclosure. Love him or hate him, the one thing that he has been very active about and complaining about is the transparency that we are not getting from U.S. government officials, from the Pentagon, from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, every military branch, every alphabet agency, from the NSA to the NRO to the CIA and the FBI and everyone in between. We're not getting the information. He wants that information out. He wants everything open from Roswell on up. And this is why I have been championing his cause. But now it's time for Tim Burchett and his crew to pick up or get out of the way. On July 26th, we're going to have more hearings. Burchett, leading up to this, has said all the right things that will get any UFO activist or any journalist excited about what he is all about regarding this topic. He's not an experiencer, but we sure as heck know he is a believer of the UFO phenomena. Great. He's also talked very tough about his position, stating that he does not want anyone to stand in a voted person's way when it comes to opening up the vault on this subject. Good for you. Will it happen? I highly doubt it. So looking at the people that he has chosen to speak at his power conference, where he will powwow with David Grush, the whistleblower, fighter pilot David Fravor, commander during the FA-18 interception of the Tic Tacs back in 2004 on the USS Nimitz case. Also, fighter pilot Ryan Graves will be there. Ryan, as you know, or maybe you don't, now has a real vested interest in UFOs with security companies. He's put together a UFO group of ex-fighter pilots that have had encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena. And he also has a podcast regarding this subject too. Now, these three men are brilliant. These three men are going to go up there and they're going to tell the truth. Do I have much hope of getting more information that we don't know? No, not at all. You see, it's been since 2017 that both Graves and Fravor have been in the public spotlight regarding this subject. For the last 6 years, we have heard everything that they know about this subject. What is new that we don't know about the 2004 Nimitz incident, or the cubes that Graves and his teammate saw on radar but never with their eyes? Then comes David Grush. We know he sat down for a 7-hour interview with intrepid investigative journalist Ross Coulthart to go over everything from the technology to the crash retrievals, and even the fact that he admitted that we have bodies of these, whatever they are. That's kind of important. But here's the thing, when you're somebody like David Grush, when you sign that non-disclosure agreement and you put your signature on there, it is your higher ranking officials that will tell you and constantly remind you what you can and cannot say. So for 7 hours, probably one of the best questioned people on the planet regarding this subject, Ross Coulthart, drilled Grush for answers. And it's all recorded. What more can he say that hasn't already been asked? Now, that may sound like laziness from other journalists, from other UFO researchers. Sure, there may be hundreds of more, if not thousands of more questions that we can ask. Is he allowed to say them? See, in order for him to have that long 7-hour, 2-day interview with Ross Coulthart, everything would have had to been cleared to make sure that he did not disrupt his NDA. Because I'm pretty sure David Grush did not want to go to jail for this interview. So the question then becomes, after a 7-hour public interview, what can Grush say in front of Burchett and crew at the next UFO hearings that hasn't already been said? Well, there is a little bit. There is the likelihood that they may name names. They may name positions. They may name areas where crashes have happened or crash material has been discovered. They may name names on who is actually the biological company holding on to these extraterrestrial phenomena. The pilots, shall we call them. Where I think this hearing is going to fall flat is because of who the witnesses are. I'm not saying they're not going to provide great testimony. I'm saying we've heard it all before. So what's the point? I would have liked to have seen Dr. Eric Davis or Dr. Gary Nolan be called to the stand for this one. But apparently, Burchett and his crew were having troubles getting people to speak. Many people were, for some reason, not wanting to. NASA pulled out at the last minute. The FAA, which records everything that commercial airliners do, refuses now to speak about this subject in the congressional hearings. So where does that lead us? Where does that take us? What do we need coming out of this hearing outside of the same jibber jabber that we have heard from 3 very lackluster previous UFO conferences? Here's where I think Tim Burchett and crew should really lay down the law. No pun intended. I would like to see them call out these groups that are hindering the investigation. Name names. Burchett apparently was not very happy that NASA pulled out. Why did NASA pull out? They didn't have to. They were probably told to. Why did the FAA pull out? Why did the United States Navy and especially the United States Air Force refuse to participate in this event? In the meantime, I believe that they are afraid of Tim Burchett. Maybe not on a physical sense, or maybe they're trying to teach him a lesson. That the military-industrial complex plays you. You don't play for it. And that may be as simple as that answer. Come to think of it, probably the only answer that makes true sense. What Tim Burchett needs to do is call out these companies and say, you're a traitor. You're a traitor to the people. You're a traitor to the UFO story. You're a Klingon for information. But when you want money, you come running to us, and we always give it. I think Burchett is fed up. I think he is fed up with the non-compliance that we see. And those roadblocks, even those ones that we do not know about, need to be brought forward. They need to be brought to justice. This is why I do believe this next hearing is going to be a big bag full of nothing. Not even air. I don't know how you believe, but Tim Burchett needs to call out the agencies, the agents, the military, and anybody else who is interfering with this UFO cover-up to keep it a secret and behind closed doors. What is so scary about releasing information? I don't know about you, but it's been about 45 years for me since I've been in kindergarten. And that's the way I feel I'm being treated regarding this subject. I know many others are feeling the exact same because they want answers too. But they're not getting them either. No, it's a sad state of affairs that Burchett may either hit a home run or he's going to strike out looking, not even swinging, looking. And here's another thing that I am going to have my anger management team behind me because I will roar if this happens. If Burchett hides this information behind closed doors, which he has said this needs to be open and transparent, then the man deserves to be called a liar. The man deserves to be labeled your typical politician who speaks before he thinks. We cannot let Tim Burchett off the hook if this goes sideways. We're going to need emails. We're going to need phone calls, snail mail, even on social media. Not attacks, but correcting his stupidity if it goes that far. Now, once again, I have faith in Burchett. He's the only one talking our language, UFO people. Forget his daily politics. Forget his Christian beliefs. Forget everything else that may matter to him or to you, and focus on UFOs. The UFO community needs Tim Burchett to have a good one. You may not like the guy, but he needs that opportunity to prove that he could get some hard questions answered, or at least attempt to put them in there. For if he doesn't, he's just another fool who's looking for money from the government. Let's hope this one does very well. Let's hope that this next hearing gets what we came for, which is information and fiery antics from a pissed off congressman. Somehow I don't think it'll go that way, but man, can we hope. Because Tim Burchett has the ability, the knowledge, and the contacts to really, really bring this story home in ufology and the Pentagon, in ufology and the legislature, or the House where Congress sits. I apologize. I'm not up on my American for that. So there we go. We now wait and see. The ball now is in the court of Tim Burchett. Does he lob it in there? Does he fire an ace? Or does he hit it out of bounds? We'll soon find out, and that is your Dave 101. Do me a favor, if you're listening to Dave 101 on our archives or on YouTube, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and leave a comment and let me know what you think. Let's get to the news.
What time is it? It's time for Shirky Poo's news!
Oh, yes, it is that time for the news once again, as we are always looking for some neat odds and ends to share with you. Now, I don't know if you've been following this really weird story. Can we call it that? Oh, I don't know. It's that one adult film star and YouTuber, Lena the Plug. Have you heard of her? Yeah, she's cruising around in a new Lamborghini right now that was gifted to her from her vlogger husband, Adam22, after shooting a scene of making sweet love to another man who she said was better in bed and bigger than her beau. Boy, these two really have no couth. Yeah, the 32-year-old OnlyFans model surprised her 39-year-old hubby, who runs the No Jumper podcast on YouTube, and whose real name is Adam Grand Mason. Yeah, he unveiled the $400,000 neon green sport truck on Twitter, made by Lamborghini. And apparently it was because he was so proud of her for doing a movie scene with another man that he wanted to get her a little something as a gift of saying, congrats, honey. Yeah, Adam also said that his wife's hormone-charged endeavor was amazing for their business, a claim that has drawn criticism from their fans. I really get to keep this, Lena said. Anything for my queen, Adam responded. The former BMXer's lavish and luxurious Lambo on his wife after her co-star Jason Love bragged that Lena enjoyed his physical aspects and that he obviously performed better than Adam did in the sack. Oh, isn't that just romantic? Yep. So what are people saying? Yeah, Lena seems to have confirmed that racy tidbit, by the way, and everything is new and interesting and fun with her husband because of it. Yep. I don't know. Do they qualify as swingers? I don't know. Yeah, she goes, you choose Jason over your husband, said Ross during the podcast. Seemed quite surprised by her response. She goes, I have had sex with one person for 7 years, and although Adam is very exciting to me sexually, a new experience is always going to be a little bit more interesting and different. On the downside, it has attracted attention of troubled NFL receiver Antonio Brown, who propositioned the couple on Twitter by saying, let me get next, Adam22. He was quickly shot down by a couple with a reply from Adam saying, what are you going to do with it with your little blank meat? Oh, this couple's just so classy. Just so classy. All right, here's another weird one. This one coming out of Nevada, where a man's personalized license plate, abbreviated to read, go back to California, has been recalled by the state's Department of Motor Vehicles. Adam Steelman has had no issue with the plate, which read GOBK, the number 2, CA, for 2 decades, until last month when a Facebook post went viral. Yeah, about a week after the post, he says, I get a letter from the DMV saying, we don't feel like your license plate is appropriate, and here's a letter saying we're recalling them. Local law enforcement have to pull me over to tell me they liked my license plate, he said. Texas has pulled me over in 20 years. I've only had one person say, well, I don't like your license plates, and I don't think they're very appropriate. But all it takes is one complaint for a license plate to be reviewed by a special committee, according to DMV in Nevada. If it goes against the statute, we have a duty to execute on that and recall it, Ellie Rolls said. Yeah, the statute states what a motorist is not permitted to put on a license, and numbers you can't express contempt, ridicule, or superiority of race, ethnic heritage, or gender. Can't have any sexual, derogatory, or obscene words. Can't contain a direct or indirect reference to drugs or paraphernalia or a gang. And it can't be made a defamatory reference to a person or a group. In this case, that group he defamed, the entire state of California. Does anybody really want to live in California anymore? That just seems nut bar to me. Yeah, by the way, Steelman is appealing the decision. Want to say a big thank you to Shane Michael Crisp, to Sean Forker, and to everybody else hanging on out with us tonight on the mighty SOR. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. There we be. Very nice. Very, very nice. Don't forget, tomorrow night on the show, Marquise Williams will be hosting Carmen Turner Shot. Yeah, what are they going to talk about? Phoenixes and Angels. Phoenixes and Angels. Yeah. That's really nice. Be interesting. How we all doing? We have fun? Oh, hey, Clam. The mighty Clam of SOR. there. Where are you all? There you are. Oh, hey, Clam. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of pictures. Stargazer. Who do you call the person who likes to hang out with the musicians in the band? The groupies? Oh, the bass player. That's funny. That is so true. You never want your child to grow up to be a bass player. It's like in hockey. You never want your child to grow up to be a goalie. I know. I can't wait to get into the woods tomorrow. I got to be up at 9. I took a couple days off work. I got to be up at 9 because I got to go to the supermarket and I got to stack up on drinks and snacks and everything for us to make sure that we're hydrated because it's going to be bloody hot out there tomorrow. I got to get a bunch of bug dope to keep the mosquitoes and bugs away. And I got to get a bunch of glow sticks for nighttime. So you guys could time warp to any period in human history. I'd go back to the, I would say the 90s to the early 2000s. That was a great party time. Very good party time. I just like to do it all over again with more money in my pocket. The session is going to be, I believe, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. That would totally do it, Paramarv. That would totally do it. Monica, I believe, was here earlier this week. Hey, Dry Toast, the best name on YouTube. I wonder where Mr. Eon was tonight. It'll be morning for him. He must have slept in. The hell is that? That's definitely not that piece. Cut. Copy. Paste. I thought so. Weird. I went for a massage today, and my massage therapist actually worked on my face to open up my sinuses. I didn't know you could get knots in your sinuses, and he was pulling them apart. Holy cow, did that feel good. Highly recommend it. Especially if you're like me and had multiple broken noses. Good night, Gildo. I am going to go take a bathroom break. I will be right back. Hi, Major Lee. Hi, I'm Dave. Hi, Bobo. Welcome to SOR Chat. Deal you woo poo, how you doing? Hey, Super Duke, Super Duke. What's happening? Six 19-inch tracks. Holy cow. Holy cow. Super Duke. Super Duke. Hi, the Pie on Twitch. How you doing? I'm hungry. Peppa H, how you doing? Michael Arrington, good to see you, bud. I don't know what I'm going to eat upstairs. All right, I want to say a big thank you to W. Decker ×3, Mike, Deb, Charles, Blue, Cruz, and Big Tex for the great super chats tonight. Once again, Marquise Williams will be hosting for me tomorrow night on the show, so show him some love as well, and we'd really appreciate it. I'm going to be out in the forest all weekend, but I will see you back here on Monday with Walter Bosley talking UFOs. See you then.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.